Hello, everyone. Today we're going to look at how to do a titration experiment where we acid and vinegar using this Chem Collective online simulation. In this experiment, we neutralize the acid by adding a known amount of base, and that allows us to then determine the amount of moles in the volume of acid and therefore the concentration of the acid, in this case, vinegar. And so the acetic acid is what is in vinegar that makes it acidic and sour tasting. So let's go ahead and find that in our stockroom under solutions. And we just click on it and it will add it to the workbench. And then we go back to the stockroom. We're going to add some glassware. We're going to do the experiment in a 250 milliliter flask. And in order to add a liquid to any of the glassware, all you have to do is drag that stock solution, and then when the flask has that little dash line around it, you should be able to just let go and then add the volume you want. So we're just going to add 1 milliliter and then click pour, and there you go. It's transferred in there. You can see 1 milliliter, the pH 2.4. Okay. You can either close that or you can just click on the vinegar. We're going to go ahead and remove the vinegar. We don't need it anymore. But we do now need to go back to solutions and add some distilled water. So we just drag that over. And instructions tell us that we need to dilute it by 10-fold. So we'll add 9 milliliters to that 1 milliliter. And that then gets us 10 milliliters of total solution. So it will be important to remember in the end, once we complete the experiment, that you started with 1 milliliter of acetic acid. Even though you're titrating a 10 milliliter solution, okay? Then when we're done with that water, so we can remove that. And now we need to add an indicator. We use phenolphthalein indicator in this case because that's going to change color around the appropriate pH, which is going to be a little bit greater than 7 here, maybe around a pH of 8, okay? And that tells us when we've added enough base to neutralize the acid and reached what's called the equivalence point, where you have equal moles of acid and equal moles of base. All right. So the indicator is very important there. So we add 0.5 milliliter of that. In reality, you would only be adding like a few drops, but that should do the trick. Okay. Let's click on that and remove that. And the last step here, before we can start the experiment, is going to be to go back to our glassware, and we need a 50 milliliter burette, okay? And what we're going to put in that is we need the stock standardized sodium hydroxide solution. And we're going to fill that up with, let's just do 52 milliliters. I think it'll work. Let's see. There you go. Pretty much right there at 0, right? The meniscus is right there at 0. So we're ready to go now and start this experiment. We just need to drag the burette so that it's on top of the flask. Okay, that's, well, let's actually want to do the other way. So, come on. Let's see if I can get this to work. There we go. All right, so when it highlights like that, you should then be able to transfer the liquid. And what I'd suggest here for this one is you're going to want to just do this realistic pour, and you'll just kind of hold, and it tells you how much you're adding. So we were starting at 0 milliliters, and we want to figure out how much of the 0.1 molar base we're going to add. So we hold the pour, and there you go. So we added about 1.85 milliliters. Okay, added some more. This solution down here, we're trying to get that to turn like a slight pink. Okay, you can see over here too on the left that the pH is going up slightly. Okay, kind of just keep adding little by little. Okay, I'm just adding like drops, essentially like 0.5 milliliter maybe, or a tiny bit. We're at 6. And doesn't look like it's quite turning pink yet. Maybe it's turning. Let's see. Close. The pH is also something to keep an eye on. Looks like that's going to start going up rapidly here now. So it might be good to just add a little bit at a time. And yeah, now it's going pretty quick. And there you go, right? So that's probably the color you want, right? And you see all of a sudden the pH went up by like 3 units almost right there. So we started 0. This, right? I would read this as 7 point, what is that? 80. So we added 7.80 milliliters, and the zero point 0.1 molar sodium hydroxide. So that now is what we can use to do our calculation and put in our answer here. I'm going to leave that up to you because you should be able to do that calculation and figure out the concentration of the acetic acid that we started with in that little 1 milliliter. So hope that helps see how to use this simulation and have fun titrating.